problems facing New Zealand's primary sector have been mounting at a rapid pace. So I think it's time for open hearts and open minds.
Gotta thank Silver Fern Farms and all of your crew.
All your crew.
Being so skilled at what you do.
What you do.
We need your help.
Need your help.
To get us through.
Gotta thank
You.
Everyone is hungry and they're desperate for a roast. They're all stuck at home eating baked beans on toast.
They need their mints to get them through. Gotta thank you.
Our chiller is too small and I am too slow to get all our lambs to where they need to go. We need your help to feed the world. Gotta thank you. Silver Fern Farms and all of your crew for being so skilled at what you do.
What you do.
We need your help
Need your help.
to get us through. Gotta thank you. Well done, boys and girls.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, all you guys and girls at Silver Fern Farms. Really appreciate what you're doing for us at the moment. We couldn't do it without you. And keep up the good work. Stay safe, look after each other, because we're thinking of you. Adios.
Welcome to Sarah's Country on Hump Day. Yeah, that's right. It's Hump Day, not just Wednesday in the middle of the week, but if it all goes to promise with Alert Level 4, it's Hump Day in the middle of the 4 weeks of the lock-in. Oh, sorry, I mean lockdown. This is your new nightly appointment show, Monday through Thursday, with me, your host, Sarah Perriam, live in your ears, on your phone, or as I've just been sent a photo from my father on a 66-inch smart TV via YouTube on Farmers Weekly's channel. Now, how bloody great was that video sent to me just late today by the team at Silver Fern Farms? That was the Gugan and Hocken family of Matarata Downs, a sheep and beef breeding and fattening farm from Tarata in Taranaki. And sending the love to you all on our slaughterhouses, on the slaughter board, and of course across the boning rooms at Silver Fern Farms, from our little cubby here in Lincoln to the truly great hardworking humans that are doing everything at the moment to keep our processing plants open to as much capacity as possible in what is a challenging and very weird time. Talking about weird time, imagine that you've been transported, from say like 1997 and the Dolaran, from Back to the Future to 2020, and you wake up this morning to the news bulletin that I woke up to. It read, Health Minister resigns for taking family to the beach. Crusaders apologise for throwing a ball. And the Prime Minister assures children the Easter Bunny is coming. Weird. But I've got a bone to pick with Jacinda, but more on that later in the show. You then roll over and you scroll through this weird thing, this gadget, and you look through the news feed. You're a person from 1997, and you see a bunch of brawn, strong-looking men who choose not to play rugby this weekend and go to the pub, but hoard flour to bake muffins, and they're hunting for a woman called Carol Baskin. The women on this news feed, they just seem to be really letting themselves go and tend to enjoy drinking in their bedrooms talking to a screen. Like, this world has gone very weird. Just to finish it off, coming into Lincoln today, we see a bunch of security guards racing across campus, chasing a man in an electric wheelchair. Like, things cannot get any more weird, but let's have some fun with this. Don't worry, we'll help you through this weird and wacky time. Just tune into Sarah's Country, Monday through Thursday at 7 o'clock, and we'll let you know about the matters that matter most to those growing food and supporting each other while we do this. Joel, talking about Carol Baskin, for those of you who aren't up with it, have you been watching this phenomenon called Tiger King on Netflix?
Yeah, we finished it last week, so we did. It's fascinating.
Okay, Bob, my father's watching. Don't watch it, Dad. I don't think it's really your cup of tea, but it is extremely fascinating. Okay, I want your ideas on what I need to binge watch over Easter because obviously I'm not getting much time during the week. Tell me in the comments below. I just want to see that you're watching. Actually, we've got record numbers of people live tonight, and what I can catch up with over the holidays. I'll ask all of our guests as well for some of their favourite suggestions on what they're watching on their streaming devices. Okay, so after 7:20, we have one of my favourite economists, and for those of you who don't know me, I'm a bit of an economy geek. Mr. Cameron Bagrie joins us as he's demanding that local government have a nationwide rates freeze. And we take your questions to Cameron on the economic impact of COVID-19. So just put them in the comments below, and of course on farmersweekly.co.nz/Sarah's Country. At 7:30, we're going to head to Cromwell to catch up with Kate Scott from LandPro. As I heard today that regional councils are legally required to press on with these plan changes that will affect regulations on farm, and how the arrogance levels are rising amongst a lot of Central Otago rabbits going into Easter. And then to end the show at 7:40, we have an angry CEO of New Zealand Pork that the government can't see the animal welfare issues of not supporting independent butchers to operate. And I'm also going to ask him about, is New Zealand going to ban imported pork from countries affected by the African swine flu like the Pacific Islands have this week? After this great on-farm story, we will be joined by CEO from Deer Industry New Zealand, Ines Moffat, to uncover the supply chain interruptions with venison into China and the US. So I hope you enjoy this lovely story now from a place that is definitely going on my top 10 list for the next edition of Shepherdess magazine of on-farm accommodation to isolate after self-isolation. From Waituna West, here is Angus and Sarah Gilbertson. This is Sarah's Country.
I think you can take it for granted when you live day to day in somewhere like this. Having guests coming here all the time, it makes you really appreciate where you live. Every time you check someone in, just the wow factor that they have by seeing it, it does make you appreciate it.
Wait, snuggle in to me.
We are Sarah and Angus Gilbertson. We are sheep and beef farmers with a glamping operation in Waituna West. We're a sheep and beef farm with 600 hectares. There's about 5,000 stock units. Of that, there's about 2,500 sheep, 1,000 hoggets, about 200 cattle and 100 weaners. About 5 years ago, we set up a glamping site, Ridgetop Farm. It's a 24 square foot tent and a hut and a sort of full camping site down there where you can sleep up to 10 people. It's a proper campsite, so it's off the grid, there's no power. But with glamping you do have proper queen size beds, single beds, linen duvets, hot running water and a flushing loo. It's a camping experience, but it is a little bit more glamorous. I'm actually originally from Wellington, and to keep me busy we sort of thought about what I would do. With the logistics of going in and out of town for a job, we decided to look at what we had here on the land. We saw an advert for Canopy Camping that were looking for landowners to set up a glamp site. So that's where it all began really. It was a little bit nerve-wracking. A lot of people wondered what we were doing, but it's worked well and it's just got busier and busier as the years have gone on. We added to it a couple of years ago a walk package, and then just recently we've started doing corporate events. You can come out for 3 or 4 hours, have lunch, and we break you into teams where you do the claybird shooting, the golf, quoits, drafting sheep. And Angus is very much involved in that sort of side of things. He's good with the guests when he needs to be. The kids are very much a part of it. They love it when guests come to the door. They often meet and greet. They want to come down and help do the check-in process. As they get older, they're becoming more and more involved. They start stacking wood and stuff like that for the fires as well, so a bit of pocket money. What it's done for us is obviously created a second income stream, but also it is connecting the rural with the city dwellers. It's amazing the response you do get from people being able to come onto private farmland. It's quite cool to hear the questions they ask in terms of farming itself and the operation. It's amazing how much people from the city or outside the rural community don't understand that side of things. So I think we could do with more of this sort of thing.
And we will have Sarah Gilbertson on Sarah's Country tomorrow night. However, if you want to join the party online after 8:30, you're invited. I've invited you all. You can still register for the Shepherdess magazine launch party that I'm hosting. Over 250 people have registered already. So it's going to be a lot of fun. A few bubbles and reading articles out of the magazine with the woman that feature. So head to shepherdess.co.nz, dress off that fabulous frock or bow tie, and I will have a bit of a hoolie together. So make sure you join the party. Okay, if this is your first time that you've watched Sarah's Country live, of course you can catch us on demand in the mornings on podcast, Sarah's Country on podcast, and of course Farmers Weekly's YouTube channel for those individual interviews. Look, I want to hear from you because this show is all about you. Tonight, if you've got any questions for our guests, put them in the comments below, as well as email me, sarah@periummedia.com, or drop into the old DMs to let me know what guests you want. Thanks, Katrina, last night from Lonesdale Sheep Dairy. I'll get on to that guest for you in coming episodes. Like the weathering of global air freight routes in recent weeks is starting to hit the primary sector, leaving processors grappling with logistics and soaring freight prices to try and maintain hard-won, far-flung markets. And one of the country's largest air freight companies, Mainfreight, has reported near collapse in the sector's capacity, which is responsible for exporting over 100,000 tonnes of product a year, 30% of which is primary produce. We now welcome to Sarah's Country, recently appointed and extremely busy at the moment, CEO of Dairy Industry New Zealand, Innes Moffat. Innes, firstly, on a lighter note, you need to have downtime and all the craziness that you've got going on. What is something that you can share with the audience that you've been binge watching on these streaming services?
Look, I'm quite a fan of Better Call Saul.
Better Calls Saul.
Better Call Saul. It's the prequel to Breaking Bad.
Ah, yes. That is good.
So, yeah. Such a flawed character.
Oh,
so many things wrong with him, but he's also a delight to watch as well.
Oh, cool. Wonderful. Thank you for that share. Now, okay, we're talking about air freight there. How much is the air freight business affecting sort of the chilled meat sector? With everybody trying to get freight out at the moment?
Yeah, well, I think the statistic is that air freight capacity has been reduced by 95%. So that is a staggering reduction in the air freight capacity. For the venison business, the vast bulk of our product is exported by sea freight. But at this time of year, where we have a smaller volume of chilled going out, air freight is pretty important. And with all of the disruptions which are going on, we still have customers around the world who do want some chilled venison, but our exporters are having a real hard time in getting their product onto the planes and delivering it to them. Some of our exporters have got retail accounts on the east coast of the USA, Scandinavia, and continental Europe, and they are joining the queue to try and get some of that high-valued chilled venison onto the planes to deliver it to those customers.
So what are you doing? Just throwing it all in the freezer?
There's quite a reduction in processing capacity at the moment, so throughput is lower than it might be otherwise. As the processing companies do everything that they can to ensure worker safety, we have seen probably a 50% reduction in processing capacity for the venison processors. But yes, and at this time of year, most of our venison is going into the freezer anyway. It's being cut to specification for customers for delivery later in the year. But there are some disruptions to that trade as well.
So we obviously are quite excited about the fact that China's even just moving one step more forward in terms of foreign products being better for food safety with what's been going on. But obviously deer has made the wildlife list. How is that sort of interrupting supply chains into China?
Yeah, so China was a developing market for us up until about 3 or 4 months ago. And then with the increase in beef prices, a number of the Chinese importers began looking at paying more attention to our high quality farm raised venison. And so over the last couple of months of 2019, we saw a dramatic increase in exports, up to about 10% of our total venison exports. So China was becoming a very important market for us. So it's a bit of a confusing situation. Venison is not banned in China, in China, and companies can still get containers of venison into China. It is being cleared through customs, but the Chinese are applying the rules. They are saying that we will allow approved meats to be imported and sold, and we won't allow unapproved meats to be imported and sold. The central government just hasn't been particularly clear about which products are on which list. So it's being left up to some of the individual regional authorities to try and work out what that means. And there have been some lists which have been provisionally issued, which include sheep, beef, pork, donkey, rabbits, but don't include venison. So we're working really hard with the government at the moment for them to be able to provide some clarification and confirmation to the central government and also to some of the regional authorities that we've got the protocols in place. They're allowed to import New Zealand farm-raised venison. It's a high-quality, safe food, and we want to be able to be providing it to Chinese consumers and also a lot of the high-end Western restaurants where that product was going in prior to the lockdown.
Talking about restaurants, the wonderful Graham Brown, Chef Graham Brown, has been doing a lot of work with chefs in the US, educating them around farm-raised, grass-fed venison, of course, to be consumed in these high-end restaurants, yet now a lot pivoting quite quickly into this online home delivery. How is our New Zealand venison placed to take up that?
Yeah, it's going to take a bit of time to get onto some of these new delivery channels. Whilst the American food scene is very dynamic, it's also kind of conservative, and they like what they like. They like beef, pork, chicken, salmon. So getting venison onto a menu or onto a home delivery kit means they've got to take another protein off. So we've got a great product. It's lean, it's delicious, it's tender. It works really well. I had venison meatballs for tea tonight, but it's going to take a bit of time to develop some of these alternative channels. So we're working hard on it. We've got Graham who's doing recipes, he's doing videos. We've got a representative in the USA and also a chef on the ground in Germany who are working alongside some of the importers and distributors, making contact with new customers, providing some samples, providing recipes and inspiration about how they can use venison on their menus and in some of their meal kits at the moment. Luckily for us, it's the low point in the venison consumption season. We are looking forward to a strong autumn again. There will be demand for New Zealand venison at that time, and I think people will be looking forward to delivering the chilled venison up to Europe during that traditional time of year.
Now, lastly, sadly, you've had to recently cancel your May conference, which I was so looking forward to. Finally got the call up, Innes, to MC after all of these years.
You made it. Well done.
Oh, maybe it's a curse. But the conference is such an important annual event for getting the important new science out to deer farmers. And in particular, it's not just venison, but velvet. You know, the velvet markets that over the last decade or so that Rhys Griffiths has been working very hard to build these pathways into Asia. Where is things at that you'd like to sort of share with farmers?
Yeah, again, we're kind of fortunate that it's the end of the velvet season. Most of the 2019 harvest has been exported. So farmers have received most of the payments for that. There's obviously been disruptions to the traditional Oriental market for deer velvet in Korea and in China. But we're confident that we've got very good distribution. There is an enormous new array of velvet products which are being sold through retail, which velvet's primary purpose in Oriental medicine is around boosting the immune system and providing more energy. So we think there's opportunities for more year-round sales. And as the borders open up and as people begin to travel a little bit more, they'll be visiting those shops where they can buy those New Zealand deer velvet products. So we're again confident that the market will be strong in the year ahead.
Thank you so much, CEO of Deer Industry New Zealand, Innes Moffat. And I just want to congratulate all those that are listening. We've had a new record of people consuming Ceres Country across 10 different platforms tonight. And, of course, Monday through Thursday from 7 till 8. Thank you so much for the comments. We've got Grey's Anatomy. Oh, that's be quite nice to dip back into. A friend of mine said that she's going right back through the archives of McLeod's Daughters. And there was someone who had never watched McLeod's Daughters already. Oh, goodness. And Station 19 is another recommendation here. So tell us, what are you watching on Netflix or Lightbox or Neon? I'm in desperate need of some binge watching. It's been such a crazy couple of weeks this Easter, so let me know what I should be watching. Our next guest on Ceres Country has a lot to say about unlocking the billions of dollars that local government is sitting on for us to rebuild our local and national economy, and how a rate rise right now would simply be a kick in the nuts. This is Ceres Country.
Even when everything changes, some things will always stay the same. The cows still need milking, the economy still needs dairy, and dairy farmers will always have what it takes. Whatever you need to keep milking, our job during the lockdown is to get it to you, because we know what it takes.
Aotearoa, New Zealand has always been a land that has provided for its people, a land of abundance and opportunity. Our dedicated team at Ag Research know that embracing kaitiakitanga will see this continue for future generations. The work we do is transforming the way we farm and revolutionizing the way New Zealanders care for our animals and for our land. We work hard to create the world's most desirable food and bio-based products through smart, sustainable farming, led by some of the world's most phenomenal research and informed by the consumers who benefit from this passion. Through a focus on environmental sustainability and climate change initiatives, this passion will allow our work to continue for generations to come. Our proficiencies in research run wide, from seeds to pest control, high-value food production to practical farming systems and quality assurance. From the smallest rural land use project to international research programs, our science and technology innovations drive the prosperity of our precious agricultural sector. It's through this research that New Zealand retains its position as a scientifically advanced global agricultural leader. Our commitment to the growth of our wider New Zealand economy, its people, and the kaitiakitanga of Aotearoa is at the very heart of every scientific innovation and creation we deliver. Ag Research, firmly grounded in this land, these waters, looking to what's in the stars and the future. Ata Matai, Matai Whetu.
Really pleased we got into this. Thanks for your help, Dave.
It's a good idea, honey. Do you reckon it'll come out? Cover it in talcum powder, leave it 10 minutes, you'll be fine. Good call, Dave.
Good call on getting those security cameras, Dave.
You call a new one yet?
Yeah, kind of.
When you've got decisions to make, we'll be there to help you make the right call.
I'd go for those ones, Bob. Yeah, good call.
Did you choose these?
Oh, you know. For great advice and insurance, talk to FMG.
Now, we all remember that very famous Australian tourism promotion video with the very good-looking young woman in a bikini saying, "Where the bloody hell are you?" as the catchphrase. Well, that is what our next guest has been asking the same question of local government. They've been largely missing in action when it comes to a COVID-19 response, in his opinion. These are the words from our Farmers Weekly's recently appointed new columnist, economist, Cameron Bagrie, who joins us now on Sarah's Country. Firstly, Mr. Bagrie, how is lockdown looking from the very luxurious place, from the pictures that you've been sending me?
Oh, yeah, I'm lucky. I had a pretty good home office set up. I guess in my private life, I'm also a bit of an introvert outside of sort of work. So I've been having an awful lot of fun sort of texting, messaging extroverted friends and asking them, "Are you okay? Is there anything I can do to help?"
Oh, I tell you what, the farming friends, like the old Fred Dagg video, going to town once every 6 months. They're quite okay with this isolation. They got it down pat.
Yeah, well, I've just been going for a couple of walks a day. It's been quite pleasurable to walk, not on the footpath. You can walk down the main street and sort of getting back to a little bit of basic stuff. It's quite refreshing.
You haven't been for a 20-minute drive in your high-ace van?
No, nah. I might have been for the old bike ride. Probably a little bit outside of the border, but didn't get caught.
Yeah, sure. So you're trying to pull the heads out of the sand from our councillors at the moment. Can you explain more about this?
Well, let's step back and have a look at what we're going through as an economy. It's the deepest downturn I've ever seen. This comparison's been made to the 1930s. I think that's a little bit off the deep end, but let's be brutally honest. But this one is really going to hurt. The good news is, policymakers, like the Reserve Bank, has brought out the bazookas. So has the government. Wage subsidy schemes, you name it, they are writing a hell of a lot of checks. And that's appropriate that they write those checks because the government's got a big balance sheet. Small businesses, households do not. So when you go through economic stress testing times, you lean on those entities that have got the balance sheet, got the cash flow, got the liquidity. So the first port of call has been central government. But there's another group of entities out there at the moment that have also got pretty good balance sheet. It's called local government. Your local government has got assets of $150 billion. Now, to be fair, they don't have the same flexibility in regard to debt that central government has got, but they've still got some leeway on those balance sheets. And I'm just rolling my eyes at the moment when I see talk out of some councils that rates are going to be moving up in the next financial year. Like, you are kidding me. Right, the number is zero. They'd be thinking a lot more proactively about how they can support farmers, households, businesses, as opposed to hitting them with higher costs when businesses out there at the moment, they're in survival mode.
There is a lot of infrastructure spend that still needs to continue, though, particularly water infrastructure in a lot of urban areas. But then at the same time, Cameron, there's probably a lot of slush funds that don't need to be used, like boosting, tourism to our international markets is one of them. Is it just a bit of shuffling of the decks of cards to ensure the spend is going to places that we need to employ people the most?
Well, there's different stages in regard to what we're going to need. Well, the first stage, what we need at the moment, it's all about crisis management. And that's where the government, leading off their balance sheet, liquidity, working capital facilities, them supporting the banks is absolutely critically important. But the last thing we want to be doing at the moment is hitting people with more costs. So once again, rates, the magic number is now zero. Sunlight's a great form of disinfectant. I'll be encouraging farmers out there, if they see any council out there that's got a positive number on the table, put it on the table. You get on social media, let's get it out there and air it so they can come under public scrutiny. But what we're also going to need on the other side, both out of central government and local government, is a bit of an economic plan. We've got to find $17 billion to replace the lost income out of the tourism sector, because the tourism sector, international-wise, is going to take a long time to go back to the way it was. We're going to need to put some sacred cows on the table, so to speak, in regard to economic policy. some of the political ideology in regard to what we see at a central government and local government, they're going to have to park it. The top priority over the coming 12, 24, 36 months is going to be something pretty simple. It's about getting people into paid work, because we do not want the unemployment rate, which looks like it's going to go double digit, to remain there for a long time, because that's going to settle a lost generation of kids. How do we get people back into paid work? Well, you've got to get growth. How do you get growth? Well, the government, local government, can spend various money on infrastructure. They'll be right to pull that lever, but they've also got to rattle the cage in what we call microeconomics. Those are those little things that central government and local government can do to either make life difficult or easier for the business community to flourish. And we're going to need them pulling those levers to make life easier over the coming 5 years.
Right, I know there's actually a few members of the Bailey's Country team watching right now, Cameron, from the comments I'm seeing here below. And I've been working with them up until the lockdown to find that perfect property on the peninsula. But the old man tells me just to sit and wait it out. What's your advice on the direction for rural and lifestyle property?
Well, I can't provide financial advice, but I can give you a bit of an idea in regard to what I'm looking at myself. I think Christmas is around the corner. If I look at every asset class at the moment, we were off to the races in 2019. We were seeing a bit of a reset across dairy prices, but a big gap between the vendors and the buyers. What's happened is that the price of risk, or people have not been compensated for risk in regard to buying the assets at the prices they've been prepared to pay. We've been in an incredible economic environment where yields, returns have just been driven down into the ground. What we're going through at the moment is what I call a big reset. That the price of risk is going to go up because we've had that economic shock. Now we need to think about, to make sure that when we put money on the table, buy assets, we're going to be compensated for that risk on the other side. What does that mean? Asset values across every asset class are going to go down. Now that's going to be hard luck for owners of assets, but for people that have been sitting on capital cash on the sidelines, watching in disbelief the past sort of couple of years, well, once again, Christmas is around the corner because you're going to start to see some realistic valuations come back into the market.
We've got a lot of comments here on the Facebook. Tony Watson said, thank you so much. Great explanations, Cameron. Michael Ross thinks that we need to think a bit bigger than recovery in 1 year of our $17 billion tourism income and to think beyond annual timeframes.
Well, if you look at the tourism sector after the global financial crisis, it took until about 2014 before it got back to 2008 levels. And this downturn is more pronounced. We're going to see some really big, major thematic shifts out of this, out the other side. People are talking the global economy is going to go through a V-shaped outcome. Now, a V-shaped outcome is coming in hard and then rocketing right back out the other side. Well, it's not going to be a V. We're certainly sliding down one side of the V. When we go back to work, self-isolation ends. Yes, we're going to climb partially up the other side. But a lot of businesses are not going to be around. They're going to be turning out the lights. The tourism sector is going to be a dead duck for a long time. We're going to get into a real hard slog sort of dogfight, I think, for a couple of years. It's going to take New Zealand probably 3 years to get back to the same level of activity we had at the start of 2020. What can we do to accelerate that? Well, the government's going to spend a lot of money on infrastructure to help with growth out the other side. But what we need is what's called microeconomic reform. Once again, that's getting in there and pulling those levers that are going to help business, farmers and households out.
And just lastly, I mean, our other large exporting industry, and particularly our dairy sector, had a very positive GDT this week. And looks that we're all looking to it to be a real saviour. How, when we're so exposed to our international markets and them rebounding, do you give concern to? Or
well,
not?
If you look at the historical pattern, when global growth is weakening, the trend for commodity prices tends to be pretty clearly down. And the New Zealand dollar acts as a bit of a buffer on the other side because the New Zealand dollar tends to weaken. Abstracting from last night's auction, generally speaking, dairy prices have been falling. But the numbers we've been seeing, given the global seen, I think, have actually been incredibly encouraging. And they actually tell me that the market's broadly in balance. But the million-dollar question here is that what happens as we really get into the whites of the eyes of what's going on around the globe and consumers stop to spend? What is then the outlook for commodity prices? I think we're going to see a little bit more weakness on the other side. But offside to that, or the offset, is that, look, in the current environment, just extrapolate out what we're seeing at the supermarkets in New Zealand and be pretty damn pleased that we put food on the global stage, because economics 101 for any government around the globe at the moment, when you're facing these sort of challenges, you're telling people to stay home, this sort of stuff, social distancing, make sure they've got access to food. What do we put on the global stage? We put food.
And access to Netflix. Cameron, to close, we want to know, you said you're a self-acclaimed introvert. You must have a stack of recommendations for binge watching this Easter.
I've been a bit of a penchant for Vikings.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Apparently, we've got 3% Viking in us. My sister did one of those online DNA things, so I might get stuck into watching that. Talk to the old ancestors.
I've got a little bit of that heritage in me as well. That's been a good series, and there's been a bit of an update as well. So more of them have been provided.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for all your questions coming in. And there's really hot and active. We're biggest audience we've had online on Sarah's Country to date, and we're only into week 2. That was Baggery Economics economist Cameron Baggery. Now, coming up next on Sarah's Country, we're heading to a wonderful, quaint little town called Bannockburn, where the grapes are ripe, the thyme is essentially everywhere, and this Easter, the rabbits are safe. This is Sarah's Country.
New Zealand.
We know things are really tough out there right now. People are concerned about their health and the health of their loved ones.
People are worried about the economy and when will things get back to normal.
Believe me when I say, us farmers are feeling it too. But now's no time to panic.
Our country can get through this together.
We just need to follow instructions and stay home.
Inside our bubble.
Let's flatten this curve and stop this disease spreading.
Together!
You don't need to worry about supermarkets getting low on food. There's plenty to go around for
everyone!
All the countries that could run out of food, New Zealand is not one of them.
Our farmers are world leading.
And we're damn good at what we do, producing high quality food.
We have strong supply lines.
And we're all working hard to keep food on the table.
For your family and for ours.
New Zealand dairy farmers produce enough for 100 million people.
You're in good hands, New Zealand.
You can count on us to keep calm and carry on farming.
We're trusting you to stay at home to keep our country safe.
We are following the rules too.
We can do this!
We're all in this together.
Cheers, New Zealand.
Delicious. Ever wondered where it starts? Does it start with care? Respect. Fresh grass 365 days a year. The truth is, delicious doesn't start in a single moment or with a single ingredient. Delicious starts here.
One of the first things you learn when you live out here
is where to shop for the things you need to live out here.
like electric fencing,
Or horse feed.
or bee suits.
Children's
Chook food.
Do you want a couple of these?
Or something stylish to wear. Not everyone's got stuff like this.
But at Farmlands we do, and then some.
So if you need anything to help you farm,
Grow,
Milk, drench,
Rhea, come on in.
Because we're out here too.
All right, if you've been watching from the start, I told you that I've got a bone to pick with Jacinda. A lot of people would think, how dare you? She's been doing such an excellent job at the moment. However, Jacinda has been making a certain group of New Zealanders an essential service that I don't believe should be. Rabbits. All year round, there's one bunny that does all the work, making and distributing the eggs to all of the Kiwi kids to bring joy and hours of sugar-induced high-pitched screeching for the appearance. One bunny. But Jacinda this week announced that all bunnies are essential. And now every rabbit and their dog has the freedom to run around willy-nilly wherever they want across the countryside, enjoying the pleasure of breeding more than humans can at 2 metres. So Jacinda, I say, I get it. One rule for all. But I invite you to one Perian Place to muster them back into lockdown. My grandfather has spent his entire life trying. Now, to our next guest from the home of the Easter Bunny. I heard last week from Minister Shane Jones that he will ensure the rollout of new regulatory changes from central government, such as the Essential Freshwater Policy and the Indigenous Biodiversity Policies, are left in the drawer for now. But it appears regional councils are continuing on business as usual with plan changes, such as Plan Change 1 in the Waikato and the Tukitook Plan Change 6 with deadlines looming. So from her headquarters in Cromwell, we're joined by LandPro Executive Director Kate Scott to discuss. Kate, can we hear you? I'm just double checking. We can't. I can't seem to hear Kate. Well, I'll just try to get Kate up. Kate is the owner of LandPro, which is a wonderful... Sorry. How are you going, Joel?
2 seconds.
Cool, 2 seconds. Kate is from LandPro and works alongside a lot of rural clients across New Zealand, providing essential services in how to navigate local government regulation changes, as well as obviously surveying and a lot of awesome new technologies that are coming in terms of geospatial technologies and surveying and mapping and things. And she's a fantastic person. She's recently completed her Nuffield report in environmental management and learnings from around the world. Kate's very close to what's going on in terms of regional council. Yep. And she heard all of the nice things that I just said about her. And can we hear you now, Kate?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, the old wireless broke up there out of Bannockburn. But how's things at the moment down there? How's the weather?
Look, we've had the most stunning autumn so far, which has certainly helped my sanity trying to work full-time at home with 3 little people not at school. So the fact that they can do crazy bike jumping in the driveway and in the section has been wonderful.
So the sugar-induced high-pitched screaming over Easter you can kind of relate to?
Look, I'll try not to give them too much sugar because I can't send them off to nanas. So I'm going to have to control the intake, I think.
Yeah, and talking about that intro, I've got a point though, don't I, about this rabbit problem and just sort of encouraging it more by allowing the Easter Bunny to be an essential service.
Yeah, look, we do have a real issues with we do have a lot of issues with bunnies. I live in a kind of semi-rural / urban area in Bannockburn, and you just have to drive up our street and the road moves with rabbits. And I guess we have the challenge here is with urban creep, I guess controlling them becomes a whole lot more difficult.
One of my fun things that my Uncle John used to do with me at Bendigo is he'd go, "Hey, Sarah, toot, watch this," and the entire hill would move. So
exactly right. What the things we do for entertainment.
Exactly. And who needs Netflix? Hey, Kate, you walk alongside farmers, as I was just saying before, to navigate a lot of these local government regulation changes. What is mandatory business as usual for regional councils that aren't taking a break on any of this over lockdown?
Yeah, look, I guess for councils, I've got a really wide range of functions that they're trying to work through. So obviously, a lot of our councils are performing emergency management services, but alongside that, they're all trying to do what they can to Sorry, are you there? Oh, sorry. So they're all also trying to facilitate business as usual, as they can. So they're still trying to do things alongside their things such as rubbish collection. They're also trying to make sure that they're continuing to process resource consent applications, as well as things like plan changes. And what the Ministry for the Environment have really set out for councils is that consenting and planning functions are core roles, and in particular will be really important for the COVID-19 recovery phase. So where possible and safe to do so, they should really continue as best as they can. And look, we're largely seeing that. For the most part, we are continuing to work from our homes, preparing applications, preparing submissions. What we can't do is get out and do site visits and face-to-face meetings with our farmers, but for the most part, it really is a continuation of what we would normally do. I think the challenge will start to come in terms of when we need to have hearings. So how do we conduct hearings via video conferencing? That may well create some challenges. But I guess the other thing that we're seeing is, at the moment, a lot of questions being asked around whether both applications should be publicly notified and whether plan changes should be notified at this time, and whether people have the capacity to participate in that process fairly, given the current situation of lockdown that we're all in. So that's some of the challenges we're trying to navigate just at the moment.
So you've not got any branded tape measures like Greenly we discussed on the show the other day for farmers to post out and do their own surveying?
Yeah, exactly right.
Hey, on a serious note though, about the apprehension that a lot of farming clients have had building up, awaiting these government national policies to be released, which were going to be in April. It's just really hard now, isn't it, in terms of business, making sound business decisions and not really knowing, especially as we're sort of sliding in to still on the table a September election.
Yeah, look, I think it is really hard. I mean, at the moment, how do we plan for change that's coming our way? And look, I didn't hear the second part of your question, unfortunately, Sarah, but I'll roll with it anyway. And I guess the challenge that people are facing is, it's a busy time of year on farm, and when you're trying to actually plan in advance for the season ahead, if you don't actually have certainty around the rules and the plan changes that are coming your way, it makes it difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Kate, lastly, we do need to head off, but the Netflix, are you getting any chance to be able to have some adult time with these children and working from home to sort of sit down with a good glass of Pinot and kick back?
Yeah, I have actually. I've gone back to watching The Blacklist from the beginning, so I think I'm up to episode 2, or season 2 rather. But, it's pretty good to go back and see Raymond Reddington from the outset and try and piece that puzzle together.
We've been getting at home to Heist. I highly recommend. If it's a very gripping bank robbery type one. Look, I'm always looking for recommendations. I kind of get a little bit of anxiety trying to choose what to watch because there's so much damn choice out there. Actually, one that I know would like as an entrepreneurial woman is Self-Made. Have you seen that one?
Okay.
That is the first African-American female millionaire in America, made her millions from hair product, for a rags to riches story.
I saw the shorts for that. Yep. Yeah, it was like in the 30s.
Yeah, really, really well worth the watch. And it's nice and quick too, over 4 parts.
Sounds great. I'll take you up on that recommendation.
Fantastic. That's Kate Scott from Land Pro, covering off around how local councils are continuing on business as usual with regards to plan changes around the country, even though, as Cameron Bagri would like them to put a freeze on rates. Now, coming up to close the show, we're joined by David Baines from New Zealand Pork on the animal welfare issue that is mounting due to independent butchers in lockdown. This is Sarah's Country.
What we do, day in and day out, is not easy. And a lot of us have felt singled out. To be honest, it's felt a bit unfair. But curiously, all the talk is a sign of something we need to take notice of. In a good way. A changing world. A world that we, the farmers, growers, fishers, makers and crafters of Aotearoa New Zealand can prosper in together, instead of each of us trying to go it alone. Now we have a plan that within a generation will get us fit for a better world, to help us focus on the world's most discerning consumers, providing them with the outstanding, ethically produced food, drinks and natural fibres that we grow, make, catch and craft. We have a way, the Māori concept of taiao. It's all about forging a deep relationship with the natural world. As Kiwis, we absolutely get this, but we can do better. Putting the climate, land, water and living systems first is in our nature. Taiao will guide and connect us to regenerate, be outstanding and celebrate our New Zealandness in everything we do. We have a future, an enriched future, where we will own our part and lead the change. For our country, our collective prosperity and for our children. All of us, farmers, growers, fishers, makers and crafters will need to get involved to encourage others to step up and win the world over like we have done many, many times before. Making this happen starts with a commitment that you and the person beside you and the person beside them can own this together. You can shape this. We can shape this by thinking about how you can apply taiao to what you do.
It's time to work together
and change your world.
Our world.
Let's make it our business
to shape our future.
Fit for a better world starts now.
This is Sarah's Country.
Growing a better world takes courage. It takes foresight and vision. It's about dreaming big, then being brave enough to follow that dream through. To create a world where food is plentiful, soils are healthy, and rivers run crystal clear. A world where we grow more with less, where livestock is tended to with care. Energy is friend, not foe, and waste is a valuable resource. This is the world you're already shaping through imagination, innovation, and determination. So as small steps become huge leaps, you move boldly forward. And Rabobank is there beside you to help grow a better world together.
This is Sarah's Country.
Even when everything changes, some things will always stay the same. The cows still need milking, the economy still needs dairy, and dairy farmers will always have what it takes. Whatever you need to keep milking, our job during the lockdown is to get it to you, because we know what it takes.
Aotearoa New Zealand has always been a land that has provided for its people, a land of abundance and opportunity. Our dedicated team at Ag Research know that embracing kaitiakitanga will see this continue for future generations. The work we do is transforming the way we farm and revolutionising the way New Zealanders care for our animals and for our land. We work hard to create the world's most desirable food and bio-based products through smart, sustainable farming, led by some of the world's most phenomenal research and informed by the consumers who benefit from this passion. Through a focus on environmental sustainability and climate change initiatives, this passion will allow our work to continue for generations to come. Our proficiencies in research run wide, from seeds to pest control, high-value food production to practical farming systems and quality assurance. From the smallest rural land use project to international research programs, our science and technology innovations drive the prosperity of our precious agricultural sector. It's through this research that New Zealand retains its position as a scientifically advanced global agricultural leader. Our commitment to the growth of our wider New Zealand economy, its people, and the kaitiakitanga of Aotearoa is at the very heart of every scientific innovation and creation we deliver. Ag Research, firmly grounded in this land, these waters, looking to what's in the stars and the future. Ata Matai, Matai Whetu.
Really pleased we got into this. Thanks for your help, Dave.
It's a good idea, honey. Do you reckon it'll come out? Cover it in talcum powder, leave it 10 minutes, and you'll be fine. Good call, Dave.
Good call on getting those security cameras, Dave.
You call a new one yet?
Yeah, kind of.
When you've got decisions to make, we'll be there to help you make the right call.
I'd go for those ones, Bob. Yeah, good call.
Did you choose these?
Oh, you know.
For great advice and insurance, talk to FMG.
Now, I do apologise for those that are listening. We do have a bit of a technical issue happening with the pairing up of the video. At the moment, there's nothing we can do, so we're just going to bowl on through, and of course, it'll be on demand, but it will be coming through, I understand from the comments, clearly as audio. So over the break, I got sent in a photo from an independent butcher. This is Robert Perriam, casually known as Bobby Pez, or my father. He had his new butchery in Chilla finished off before lockdown, actually, and as you can see there on screen, he is more happier than a vegan in a tofu factory. So good on you, Bob, and please, you know where I live to post up some of those nice merino lamb sausages. In the latest updates on the government's decision to allow independent butchers to make home deliveries is a step forward, but falls short of a solution to resolve the animal welfare crisis that's happening in the New Zealand pork sector. Joining us on Sarah's Country is CEO of New Zealand Pork, David Baines. There's a surplus of pigs on farms at the moment, David. Can you provide us with a lay of the land on the animal welfare situation that is currently playing out?
Sure, happy to do that, Sarah. The situation pre-COVID was that most of our market that our farmers supply was all domestic. We have very little export. So when the COVID restrictions came in place, it effectively removed 50% of our normal market. So that was food service, independent butchers and Asian retailers. So yeah, with pork, they're an intensive farming style, so you can't easily turn it off, and the pigs need to go somewhere every week. So it was fast leading to a quite a desperate situation.
What are your continued discussions been like with MPI, and what are you hoping for?
Discussions with MPI have been very good. I think everyone appreciates the seriousness of the situation. Obviously, we're hoping to have some of that market re-established. We've been lobbying right from day one that independent butchers should be part of the essential service operating within the COVID environment. We think the butchers are responsible people. We know that they can adhere to the COVID requirements and prevent the spread of the disease. And we also believe they're an essential service to provide good quality New Zealand meat to the consumer.
It just seems bizarre. Like, I understand their ability to not have the retail doors open for independent if they can actually help with a lot of this processing capacity loss that we're finding in our larger processors. No?
Yeah, and given the profile of the industry, they actually buy a lot of carcass product as opposed to cartoned. So when that part of the market was closed down, it put pressure on the boning rooms to have to try and place that carcass product into cartons so it could be distributed somewhere else. So that put additional pressure on the processing capacity. It was a double whammy really. It removed part of the normal market segment, and it also put pressure on our already under pressure boning rooms because of I guess a lot of processors found out that with high rates of absenteeism and with the 2 metre distancing required of processors, it actually slowed a lot of chains and production lines down.
We've got, I want to say over 60%, but you'll be able to clarify the exact amount of pork sold in New Zealand that's imported. I heard this morning on Talkback about the Pacific Islands shutting their borders to pork coming in to their little small island nations from countries that have been affected by African swine flu. What are we doing to hear about that? And obviously African swine flu has been clearly noted not to affect humans, but should we be wrapping up our biosecurity on that?
Yeah, we've been talking with MPI for a number of months now about the risk of African swine fever. Probably the two main pathways that we see that it could come into New Zealand is either with illegally imported meat. So that's with people who are bringing undeclared meat products into the country. That's one pathway. The other pathway is the people themselves. So we've got a lot of agricultural workers who are immigrants, a lot of them, for example, from the Philippines. African swine fever is quite rampant through the Philippines. So there's a very real risk if people go home for a holiday, come back, they could carry the disease on their clothing or on their shoes. So I guess with the current COVID environment, that's significantly reduced, if not eliminated, the number of travellers. So probably the current risk pathway for African swine fever is quite low. But we're certainly continuing to work with government because African swine fever is a terrible disease, and it would decimate our commercial pig herd if it got into it.
And it's obviously making up a small part of our domestic consumption as it is. Is the imported pork finding any barriers in terms of air freight into New Zealand and putting pressure on prices?
I haven't heard of it putting any pressure, probably perhaps the reverse, where imported pork, and that makes up about 62% of our total consumption. So it's a lot of pork coming in. But some of that pork had been brought in by importers who were planning on providing that to the food service sector. So obviously with that being closed and that frozen pork having arrived, those importers are looking to try and place that in the market segments which remain open, and that happens to be the two main supermarkets. So there's quite a bit of lobbying from them to place it in the supermarkets. We're pleased that the supermarkets at this stage are saying that we want to support New Zealand and help our farmers through. So we're grateful for that and encouraging more of it.
Are you worried about the impact on breeding numbers with the way that this is playing out?
At this stage, we're able to manage the current situation. We've had to scramble, obviously, for alternatives, and one of our big alternatives is to place some New Zealand product into that 62%, which had previously been supplied by imports. So the big users of that would be your manufacturers, the people who manufacture bacon, ham, and goods. So we've worked with them in a supply chain meeting, explained the seriousness of our situation, and to their credit, they've sort of said, look, we understand that, we'll work this together. We'll put on hold the use of the imported frozen product, and we will use New Zealand fresh in the meantime. So that's alleviated a large proportion of our oversupply. But the challenge for us as an industry is that because imports are a lot cheaper than New Zealand product, we're having to meet that cheaper price, so it's coming at significant financial pain. So we're currently preparing a recommendation to government for a financial relief package.
David, you've had a hell of a week, to be honest. You'd be due to put your feet up this Easter and binge watch a bit on Netflix.
Yeah, I'll be looking forward to that, Sarah. Hopefully it can happen sometime over this long weekend.
What have you got lined up? Is there something you've got stuck into or been looking forward to?
Well, obviously it's within the bubble. I've got a couple of projects that sort of restoring a piece of furniture, and I'm sure that my wife Jill has got some projects for me to get my teeth into as well out in the garden.
Good, good. Nice to hear you having a break because you've been doing some very great work across the industry this week. That's David Baines, the CEO for New Zealand Pork. Now, that's all we've got time for tonight. If you've missed any of the episodes or you're currently listening to this and would like to watch back, as we've had a few technical difficulties there, we will have all of the episodes up on Sarah's Country Podcast on demand, as well as, of course, Farmers Weekly's YouTube channel to be able to watch them back through. Now, I want you to send me suggestions, of course, for any guests you want to hear from, but of course, with the amazing, huge newsroom that we have at Farmers Weekly, we've got our finger on the pulse on the latest stories that are coming through. So send me through sarah@perriammedia.com, and we can do this all over again at 7 o'clock. Now, I've got to schnazzle out of here, is that even a word, to put on a pretty little frock and some sparkles, get some bubbles, because it's time for our very first online glamorous magazine party, because this is the new norm. 8:30 with the Shepherdess team. If you'd like to join along, there's still some spaces. Well, I think the room's filling up right now. It's 250 to 300 people expected, but you can still join us. So head along to shepherdess.co.nz to be able to register, and we will see you all again tomorrow. So good night, go well, and ensure that you don't support the influx of, I don't even know what I was going to say there, something about Easter bunnies. I'm done talking about bunnies. You've obviously heard my pitch. Good night, go well, and we'll see you again tomorrow. This is Sarah's Country.